Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Global Youth Empowerment Initiative Compassion in Conversation Workshop Series. My name is Claire Xiao, and I will be your host for this workshop. And I'm so happy to announce that this is a collaboration between my own nonprofit that I founded called Courage Canvas and TeenSpeak Academy, which was founded by Mr. Bryce Idem himself. And through this workshop, I hope to give you youth so many valuable tools, advice, and stories to bring people together to make a difference. And this is where compassion and communication means action. So this workshop will be packed with so much examples of my own speech. We will be analyzing my own winning Toastmasters Global Youth Champion speech, as well as so many questions and writing prompts to help you youth determine what is it that you are passionate about or you want to write about and speak about in your own speeches. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so again, welcome youth. I am so happy, so privileged to be speaking to all of you from across the globe. I know there are so many of you from the USA and definitely students and primary schools from Nigeria as well, and other global classrooms. And through this workshop series, we are reaching over 500 students through schools, educators, parents, and our global network. So again, I'm so privileged and so fortunate to have the chance to connect with you all. And at the end of the webinar, I will definitely be able to answer any questions, or if Mr. Bryce forwards me any questions, or if you guys have any questions after the webinar, you are free to contact Mr. Bryce or myself via the email that I will leave at the end of the presentation. So tonight is not just a simple workshop, but it is a tool and an avenue for change. And I hope from the lessons that you learned today, you can apply them to your own life starting today, starting tomorrow, and make it a daily habit where you use your voice and your public speaking capability for personal growth and growth for your local and wider community. So this is where young voices become leaders and tools for healing. So thank you so much for joining us today. All right, so I am definitely excited to share my own story. And as I mentioned, I founded my own 501c3 youth-led nonprofit called Courage Canvas. And my nonprofit is based on the idea of healing beyond medicine. So, what exactly does that mean? Well, healing can take the form of so many different things. And in today's workshop, my primary focus is through the lens of public speaking and communication. And through my nonprofit, we've already impacted over 3,500 youth and patients across the world. We've reached over 42,000 people through our social media platforms, and we have 11 global chapters. So this includes some of the 50 states in the United States, as well as various countries such as in Ukraine, China, and other places we've reached across the globe. And we've also, through our various fundraising initiatives, we've raised over $12,000 for various health-related organizations that promote healing, as well as our own programs and events. And we've donated over 3,000 resources. For example, we partner with tornado relief organizations and have donated over 1,000 books, as well as other resources, foods, and items to people in need. And so this is all part of our mission of healing. And you might be wondering, Claire, maybe I'm like inspired by the work you do, or I want to learn from your own initiative. Why did you start this nonprofit? What made you motivated to start this nonprofit? And that is such an important question because as youth, it is so important to not just ask ourselves, what do I want to do? It's not always about what speech do I want to write or what message I want to write. But rather, I think we should go a few steps back and first ask ourselves, why? Why do you think it is so powerful to be a public speaker? Why do you want to be a good public speaker? Why do you want to share your message? And I want to share my own why I started this, and why I'm here speaking to you all today. So, as a much younger child, going a couple of years back when I was in elementary and middle school, I was actually very, very opposite from who I am today. I was extremely shy. I still remember when I would go with my parents to McDonald's, and I was so shy. I would always hide behind my parents. I couldn't talk to the cashier. Even when I wanted ketchup for my French fries or my burger, I could not bring up the courage to ask the cashier, "Can I have a ketchup packet, please?" I was so shy, so afraid of speaking that in any classroom environment, even if I knew the answer to the math problem or the English question, I could not bring myself to just raise my hand and answer, even when I knew the correct answer. In fact, a lot of my fears, I feel, stemmed from a fear of judgment or a lack of belief in myself. And this is an issue that I see with many youth today, because you do not have to wait until you are 16, 18, even 30 years old to have a significant change or impact on your community. You can start today. No matter if you are only 80 years old or you are 16 years old like me, I promise you that with your voice, your capabilities, and your existence as a functioning human being with your own set of emotions and passions and thoughts, you have the power to create phenomenal change in this world, one step at a time. All right. So just like the slide is showing, I indeed used to be the quiet girl who hid her voice, and I knew how powerful it is when someone teaches you to use it. So through my public speaking adventures, from Toastmasters to speech and debate, to clubs I founded in my own school, to this nonprofit, to the various activities and experiences I've had, I've learned so much about the power of voice. Whether in the USA, Nigeria, or another global classroom, I kept hearing the same question: does my voice matter yet? And I assure you it does, because no matter where you are, where you're located, how old you are, what background, what ethnicity, who you are, I promise you your voice is always a powerful tool for change. And the most common barrier I see in young people isn't a lack of talent. It is a lack of belief. I promise you that if you start by believing in yourself, that is the foundation for a powerful voice. The foundation, the first step is not being good at public speaking, or it is not being talented enough or having enough skill. Rather, it is you telling yourself in your own mind, your own thoughts, that you are a confident communicator. You have the power to create change, because only you can make yourself believe that, not necessarily your friends, your parents, your teachers, but rather the own thoughts you repeat to yourself can create ripples of change. All right, I hope you learned from my story. And now I want to ask you a question. Do you know who you are? Now I know this is a powerful question because most of you are probably thinking in your head, who am I really? Indeed, this is a very difficult question because us as human beings, we're not only limited to one interest or one belief. We have so many different facets to ourselves. Maybe you like to play this sport, or you like art, or you like to teach the community about something, or you have this job or this career, but you also invest your time in this hobby or this other job. And these are all the different parts of ourself. So I want you to think today, what do you enjoy? And what makes you you? So who are you when no one is watching? Do you study when no one checks? Are you kind when it's not rewarded? If nobody was watching your actions, what do you think you would enjoy? What would you spend your time doing to benefit the community? For me, and for most likely some of you, it is the power of communication. Because communication can be a small thing. It can be with your friends in the classroom. It can be with your teachers, even your own parents and siblings. How you interact and how you think to yourself is so powerful. My next question is, if fear didn't exist, what would you attempt? Think about it. If you weren't scared of failing, if you weren't scared of this big goal you have, if there wasn't the possibility of failure, wouldn't you strive towards your dreams? What are your dreams? What are your goals? And for me, one of these goals that I had a couple years back was starting this nonprofit, was becoming a public speaker. I used to fear the judgment, or what if I wasn't capable enough? What if I just forgot my speech in the middle of the speech? But let me tell you something, a secret. No matter how many years of public speaking you have, how much experience you have, I always get butterflies before I do a public speaking event. So I hope this assures you that if you're feeling nervous, that is so normal. Pretty much everybody is feeling those butterflies in their stomach. And I hope you think to yourself, let me go back to the question. Would you run for leadership? Would you start a club at your school? Speak up in class. Ask questions people are afraid to ask. Reach out to that mentor and better yourself. So while you're thinking of these questions, you can think about them in your head, or you can even take out a notebook or a piece of paper and pencil and write these down. And then tomorrow or a few weeks later, you can come back to that paper and ask yourself, what action have you taken to start that? Have you done anything to improve, to begin on those initiatives that you have wished to start? All right, my next question is, what do you complain about but haven't tried to fix? Oh, sorry about that. Few presentation difficulties. Let me go back. All right, so think about if you complain about, for example, in the USA, sometimes a couple years back, the school lunches were poorly made or they were unhealthy, had a lot of sugar and unhealthy ingredients. For the school lunches, as a student, if you see this problem, try to take the first step in creating change. Maybe you can ask your lunch lady or ask the teacher, what can I do about this? Or maybe you see bullying in your community. Your friends or your peers, you see them bullying another friend of yours. Take action to talk to that friend, ask them, what's the matter? Or what's causing this behavior to happen? Maybe you can intervene yourself in the conflict and prevent the problem from escalating. So these are all conversations where communication matters. And that is why communication is so vital to every aspect of our lives.
Hello, Claire. So we might need to switch over to the next Zoom meeting. I just need to notify you, Claire. So we need to switch over to the next Zoom link, right? So this will go off in 1 minute or so. I just need to notify you, please. We'll get back to the second link and then we can continue from there. Thank you. Let's go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I believe I can see the remaining meeting time in the Zoom. It seems that there are around 5 minutes left. So I'll go ahead and finish the slide. And then after that, we can move on to the second Zoom link. All right. So my next question is, what belief about yourself needs rewriting? Maybe you think to yourself, think about what thoughts do you repeat to yourself on a daily basis? Is it, I am too shy? Or, I am not smart enough? Or, I am not young. I am too young. If you think about these thoughts that you repeat to yourself, if you're always repeating them, they become true because you believe they are true, not because they are actually true, but because you have ingrained them in your mind. So I want you to write out these thoughts and be conscious, be aware of them, because they play a big role in our own ability to improve. My next question is, if your future self could see you today, would they be proud or impatient? What I mean by that is, would you feel satisfied if you looked back on yourself? Let's say 10 years from now, if you looked back on your younger self, did you accomplish your goals? If you wanted to be a great public speaker, why didn't you take the first step to challenge yourself, to step over your own fears and barriers, to practice it? No matter how bad you may have started, I'm sure your future self would be so proud and thankful to yourself that you made that first step. You challenged yourself to become a better communicator. And so that is a powerful question to think about. And my next question is, what would change if you stopped waiting? Where is hesitation holding you back? If you want to start communicating with people, if you want to start this new change, what is holding you back? Is it your own fear, your fear of judgment, your limiting thoughts? Perhaps it's a more physical barrier. Or is it more in your head? Is it a more emotional or mental barrier? So think about what is holding you back, because this is the foundation where we start to think, how can I address the root of the problem? And continue from there. All right, so I hope all of you have gotten the chance to maybe think in your head a little about these questions. And maybe after this meeting, you can also brainstorm a little or journal on a piece of paper and store that piece of paper, because I promise you, when you look back on it, you will see what has changed. All right, so moving on to this slide. And in the previous slide, if you were just in the other Zoom, you heard me talking all about the various questions we can be asking ourselves. So as I mentioned, our thoughts play such a big role in the public speaker and communicator we become, because those thoughts are the foundation of our very belief in ourselves. If we repeat thoughts that enhance our ability to improve as a public speaker, such as the belief that we can be confident and we can be great public speakers, then we will also develop that confidence to be a great public speaker. But if we repeat thoughts to ourselves or continuous worries to ourselves, such as fear of failure, fear of judgment, waiting for permission, and comparing ourselves to other public speakers who have had a ton more years of public speaking than our own selves, that can cause a lot of unnecessary worry and lack of belief in ourselves. So again, I want to reiterate that our thoughts are such a powerful component of our public speaking capability. All right. And so I want to ask the question, another question to you is that if your voice were medicine, who would it heal? So you can think about that a little bit and think about the questions I asked earlier. If you wanted to use your voice as a powerful tool for change, what communities do you want to heal? Maybe you want to advocate. So, advocate in terms of social justice, maybe helping a community, increasing human rights, maybe for the disabled community, or perhaps for another form of social justice. Whatever it is, healing can be used in so many ways, from social justice to healthcare fields to our daily lives in the classroom environment. Healing is such a powerful component. All right, so you can either think about this in your head, or like I said earlier, you can write it down on a piece of paper. All right, so here is the agenda today. Now we are getting to the meat of this workshop. And starting off, we're going to be talking all about speech techniques, because now that I've kind of gotten your brains to think about why do I want to be a good public speaker and what do I want to use my voice to change, now it's about the speech techniques. So how exactly, what details do I need to know to write a successful speech? What contexts will I need to use my public speaking capabilities? And fortunately, I will be sharing my winning speech from the Toastmasters Global Youth Championship round, and I will be pasting screenshots from my own speech. So this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to learn specifically from my own script, and I'll take you through the own recording of my speech, and I'll walk you through how I planned my speech from the hook, the metaphor, all the way to the call to action and the conclusion at the end. And then how to leave a lasting impact. And there will be a moment where I share with you all a community project. So using the skills I taught you, I will be assigning a very small project in terms of impacting your community on the very local and small scale. How can you use your voice as a tool for change? And then lastly, we'll of course be doing some reflection based off what we learned, maybe some journaling, action items, and then learning about how we can develop public speaking as a daily habit. All right, so without further ado, all right, so if you were able to watch my speech, if you're coming from Toastmasters or if you've heard about myself from Toastmasters, perhaps you have seen my champion speech, but if not, then I will be sharing it via this recording. So this was to provide some context from the Toastmasters GYGC Global Youth Championship round across 5,000 speakers and 22 countries. I'll be sharing the speech that was about a personal struggle that I faced and what I did to overcome that. And I want you, as you're watching, to notice, pay attention to, or take some notes on how is the story structured? Where do I pause in my speech? How do I build emotion through facial expression and the way I move across the screen? And what message stands out to you? Okay, so my speech is about 7 minutes long, since that is the length of a Toastmasters speech. And let me share my computer sound. All right, it should be at 1 minute, 10 seconds.
Started.
All right, let's see. All right, this should be it.
Tails. Cavalier Claire Zhao. Heads or tails? In that split second, everything hangs in the balance. It's funny how one little flip can decide so much. Growing up, this coin was my go-to for every tough decision. Heads, play outside. Tails, do homework. Heads, eat ice cream. Tails, eat it anyway, but blame the coin. But what happens when the stakes aren't just about homework or ice cream, but about the kind of life we want to live? Contest chair, fellow coin flippers. Sometimes it feels like life hands us a coin and says, good luck. But do you know what makes a choice powerful? It's not just the results, but how we respond when life makes us doubt our choices. When I was in middle school, my life felt like it was already decided. I remember sitting in class, heart pounding, as I watched my classmates raise their hands with ease. My thoughts felt trapped, like birds in a cage, unable to take flight. I was so shy that I couldn't even ask the McDonald's cashier for a ketchup packet. It's just the way I am, I thought. I don't have a choice. For 3 years, I lived like this. I convinced myself that I was just born quiet, meant to fade into the background. But one day, volunteering at the hospital, I saw a teenage boy lying in bed. He was frail, and his hair was thinned by chemo. Despite the antiseptic scent and the beep, beep, beep of machines that filled the room, he was smiling like a ray of sunshine. I don't know how I mustered up the courage to ask, "You seem so happy. What's your secret?" Still smiling, he replied, "Life doesn't always give us what we want. So I chose to focus on the good stuff." And I'm flipping a coin to decide if I'm eating broccoli or not. In that moment, I realized that life's challenges are a lot like flipping a coin. Not about leaving things to chance, but about choosing how we respond to whichever side it lands on. I stayed quiet, invisible, because I believed that's just who I was. But what if it wasn't? Choose your side. Change your story. At first, speaking up felt like climbing a mountain. Every time I opened my mouth, fear pulled me back. So I made a vow to myself. Every day at lunch, I would talk to 5 new people. It wasn't easy at first. My hands trembled, my words stumbled, but every new conversation ignited a spark within me. I even started to order my own ketchup. Soon, that small spark grew into a blazing fire. I joined the speech and debate team, became its vice president. I joined Toastmasters. And now I am the lead of a nonprofit organization that empowers global youth to make better choices for their own futures. Fellow Toastmasters, maybe you felt stuck too. Maybe you've told yourself, this is just the way I am, or things will never change. But here's the truth. You are one choice away from a different life. Choose your side. Change your story. This coin is small, but it is powerful. It's a reminder that every decision has 2 sides. Fear or courage, silence or action, hesitation or responsibility. So tonight, as you hold your own coin, remember, it's not just a piece of metal. It's a symbol of your power to choose your own path. So what choices are you making tonight that could redefine your tomorrow? Will you stay in your comfort zone or step into the unknown? Follow the expected path or carve out your own? I challenge you to take a moment today to flip your own coin. Choose courage, action, and responsibility. Most importantly, choose your side. Change your story. Heads or tails? Contest chair.
All right.
Wow, wow, that was a blockbuster. Choose your side and change your story. Amazing speech. Heads or tail? Well done, Claire. Sorry, I'm interrupting the event. Apologies. I just couldn't but this comedy. Well done. Okay, so a quick one. We'll put another link to another Zoom meeting. Should this one go off? If by the time Claire rounds off and we are not done, we'll put another link. Hope you can stay on. I don't feel like leaving, so Mr. Victor will put the link in the chat box so that everyone can have access to it. Thank you, everyone who has joined. I'm most grateful. Go ahead, Claire. Thank you. Sorry for that interruption.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much, Mr. Bryce, for your kind words. And yeah, as Mr. Bryce said, I'm sure you guys heard what I like to call a tagline in the speech. So I said something with the coin. It was like, choose your side, change your story. And I'm not sure if you all caught on to how many times I said it during the speech, but I would say it was about 3 times throughout the speech. And this is called a tagline. It is a speech technique that I intentionally incorporated throughout my speech because it makes your speech more memorable to the audience. And so they know exactly what they should take away from your speech. They can remember that exact phrase. So that is an example of a speech technique amongst many of the other speech techniques that I will share with you all today. And I hope you will apply these valuable pieces to your own future speech writing endeavors. So maybe you can take out a piece of paper and a pencil and take some notes. And I'm sure when you guys give a classroom presentation or participate in a speech contest, you can also keep these pieces of advice in mind. All right. So now I want you to think to yourself, what do you think made my speech a winning speech? All right. So first off, I want to talk about my message and structure. If you noticed throughout the whole speech, I had a very clear topic and tagline. Choose your side, change your story. And I used a prop, a coin, and movement to illustrate my central message. I also had a personal story. You could hear me talking about and my emotions showing through my hospital experiences and my own experiences being a very shy kid from a young age. This is a personal story that can relate to the audience. Maybe the judges used to be unconfident public speakers, or maybe they also had moments where they felt very nervous. This is a very relatable daily life experience, and a personal story is so key to every speech because you relate to the audience. They can understand your struggle, so you pull the audience in further into the content of your speech. And I had a logical emotional arc. Every speech must involve the audience in some emotions. This is what I like to call the emotional roller coaster. Maybe you make the audience feel excited or humorous at the start, but then it gets a little bit sad when you talk about your own struggles. Maybe you get angry, or you go to the climax of your speech, and these emotions are going up and up and down and down, up and down. And so when you take your audience through this emotional arc, it allows them to feel your emotions and sympathize with you. And of course, I had the metaphor. A metaphor is like an object or another thing that is a symbolic representation of the message of your speech. And mine was the coin, heads or tails. All right. Second, I already mentioned this, but it is the prop. So not all speeches will require a prop or will allow you to use a prop. But fortunately, if you are familiar with Toastmasters, in your speech, you are allowed to have a prop. So you might be wondering, Claire, how did you think of your prop? Well, first of all, it definitely took me a lot of brainstorming to do, which I can go on in a future presentation, but I can briefly talk about this here.
Can I interrupt you, Claire? Can I interrupt you? What is a prop? Many people may not understand. You're coming from the Toastmasters level or background, so you're comfortable with the word prop, P-R-O-P. Most people who are not Toastmasters here, who may not have had that interface with Toastmasters, may not understand what is a prop, P-R-O-P. Could you please, a little bit put some light on that word prop? And try to explain what it is in relation to public speaking. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Thank you for the question. So a prop is like an object. So it can be any object you choose. For example, this pen is a prop. This phone can be a prop. This water bottle can be a prop. A paintbrush can be a prop. A glue stick can even be a prop. A prop means an object that is usually used in Toastmaster speeches and other speeches to represent the core message of your story. And when you use this prop, you can show it in motion or use it across the screen. It is used to convey your message, and it is used to assist your speech to make it more interesting. Because if I did not use a coin in my speech and the metaphor of heads or tails of a coin, I'm sure my speech would have been less effective. But because I used a prop throughout my speech, I can show how the coin has different sides, a head side and a tail side, and how our decisions are not based on random chances, like flipping a coin, but rather we can choose our destiny. So that is how I used a coin. But you can use another prop. Perhaps you can use a glue stick to convey the metaphor of how we can repair mistakes, how we should not always be perfect. Maybe you can show a paper ripping and you use a glue stick or tape to attach it back together. So your message in that instance is that we as a society should not always aim for perfection. It is okay to have mistakes, because maybe through those mistakes, we can patch the papers together in a more beautiful or unique way. So our mistakes allow us to grow. So those are all examples of a prop. And that is why a prop is so important when you're thinking about your speech. You can also look at the objects in your house or in your surroundings or in your classroom. And that can also help you decide a speech topic. So you don't always have to decide the topic and then the prop. Maybe you can select a prop first to help you decide the topic. So these are all strategic methods to help you when you are writing your own speech. All right. Next thing is about emotional impact. So it's about vulnerability. If you don't know what that means, it's basically when I was talking about my personal story, you can notice I was showing my sad emotions. Maybe you have your own personal stories where you also feel sad or you feel emotional or angry. This is being vulnerable with the audience. The audience can understand your true feelings. So it's like you're trusting your audience with your own personal experience. And so the audience will feel more drawn to you because us humans are all rooted on healing and emotional connection. So when the audience hears your emotional vulnerability, we feel closer to you, like you are a close friend telling us about your struggles. So that is why it is very important. Next is delivery. So speech delivery is all about your voice, your hand movements, your gestures, especially if the speech is on a virtual setting like I am right now. We can be on the right or left side of the speech. We can stand further back, stand closer, be louder, be softer, be faster, be slower, have pauses. So all of these are very important. Eye contact, well-lit environment. You could see my background was plain and my voice could be heard clearly. And also the outfit. For example, you want to choose an outfit that is not too many colors, but can help you look well put and professional. It should not be the same color as the background. For example, if I chose to wear a white shirt, it would blend in with the background. So it would make my speech seem less popping out. But since I wore a pretty vibrant blue color, it allowed me as a speaker to stand out amidst the background. And why did my speech win? I had a clear thesis, so I had a clear core message, a clear takeaway for the audience. I reinforced the metaphor of a coin throughout my entire speech, and I had emotions throughout my entire speech. All right, so I hope you can take this advice away and use it for your own speech. And now I would like to give you all some more advice. Let's build yours. your own speech. Step 1 is to think, what is one message you want people to remember? And there are so many things in the world you could possibly write a message about, right? But I want you to think about your personal story. What do you struggle with? What do your friends or family struggle with? What do you think your audience will relate to? This is why it's important to write a speech that is personal and relatable. I strongly advise you in speech competitions to not write a speech that is very informational or talking about facts or statistics, because that can get boring very fast. Instead, you want to talk about something emotional or something about a story that is relatable. Okay, second is personal experience. So why do you think the audience should believe in your message? Why do you think they should think your message is the most important? You should make that feel very clear to the audience. Step 3 is a metaphor or a hook. A hook is something at the very start of your speech, because the first 10 seconds of your speech can allow the judges and the audience to think, is your speech powerful? If you start off energetic or with a personal story or with a prop like I used, that can allow your speech to stand out. Step 4 is impact. What do you want the audience to take away? Something called a call to action. What should they feel? How do you hope they do? And so if you have a phone or another device, when you're practicing your speech, I highly suggest you to stand in front, full body with your outfit, and to practice moving, and then watch the recording. Do you feel what you want the audience to feel? If you do, you know you've succeeded. But if you can see some improvements, that can be very helpful as well. So here I've also listed out an acronym called SPEAK, SPEAK. Story, problem, emotion, angle, and key takeaway. These are some of the things that you can think about in your own speech. All right. So now I'm going to give you a speech example format using my own speech. I'm going to give you some screenshots from my own script that I wrote, and I hope through that you can kind of get a good idea of what are some key components of writing a speech. All right, so when you're writing a speech, you can use simple pencil and paper, but you can also use some digital tools. I'm not sure if you have access to like Word document or Google document. And then additionally, it is so important to ask for feedback. Ask your friends, your parents, your siblings to watch your speech. Ask your teacher. Ask your mentors. Anyone who has some experience in public speaking. Ask them, what do they feel? All right. So, starting off with the introduction of a speech. This is where you have a hook. And I used a metaphor. You don't have to use a metaphor, but it is a great tool. So your hook might incorporate some props, some actions, like I flipped a coin. You could hear my clap. You could hear my snap. All of those are very important tools. You can ask a question. You can have a quote, pauses, humor, suspense, story, surprise, mystery. And then after that, make sure you have an effective transition to transition from the start, introduction, to the content or story of your speech. So here's mine. I asked a question, heads or tails. I had a prop. I had a sound. I got closer to the camera at this point, and I paused. When you plan your speech, it's very helpful to think about exactly what gestures you want to have at specific moments. Where do you want to pause? Where should you move? Planning and staying consistent throughout the entire speech is extremely helpful. All right. Next is a personal story. So like I mentioned, emotion, vulnerability is so important. And here I had a metaphor, another metaphor. I said, like birds in a cage. So if you're familiar with figurative language, this is actually called a simile. This is when you compare maybe your own personal experience to something else. So I compared my shyness to birds trapped in a cage. So when birds are trapped, they want to be freed, but it feels like they cannot. So this is the technique I used. So I also had internal dialogue. So you want to mention, what are you thinking to yourself? For example, I thought, it's just the way I am. So if you repeat this to the audience, they can think about, what are you thinking in your own head? And they can think about that in their own lives. Maybe they can relate to you. And another point I want to mention that is so important is be specific. The more specific you are, for example, antiseptic scent, that means the scent in the hospital room. You can smell the scent of the hand sanitizer and the sterilization, the equipment. You can smell that. You can hear the beeps. I said beep, beep, beep. This is audio and visual techniques to help the audience. You have to be specific. The more specific, the more the audience can imagine themselves in the environment. All right, so these are some great techniques. Oh, and then here I had some humor because I gave a very deep story. It was a bit sad. So you don't want your audience to be one emotion, sad throughout the whole speech, because by the end, they might feel very sad. They don't want to take action. So you want to have a little sentence or two to incorporate a little bit of humor. So I'm saying like, I'm flipping a coin to decide if I'm eating broccoli or not. So in that sentence, I'm saying, wow, this kid has gone through so much, and I can't even make a decision about what I want to eat for dinner. So that is a humorous moment. You want to pause a little after that. So the humor can sit in with the audience. They can maybe chuckle to themselves or laugh a little bit in their head. Perfect. So moving on to this part of the speech, which is you want to make sure your speech is universal. So what does that mean? Being universal means that your speech, your message can apply to pretty much everyone, whether you're old, you are young, you are from this area or from this country, no matter your race, ethnicity, age, gender, this message should apply to as many people as possible. Because in the speech contest world, you want to make sure your judge can relate to your speech and your audience as well. So relatability is very important. You want to have examples, maybe some questions, quotes, some connection. Audience age and context is very important when you consider this. So here you can maybe transition to solutions after you have mentioned your story, your personal struggles. How did you change? Can you maybe offer some more personal examples? How did you transition from those struggles to become a better person? Because you want to show the audience an example of how your message applies. So if your message is like mine, choose your side, change your story, I need to have an example in my speech. How did I move on from my struggles to choose my side and change my story? So this is very important. So here you can see I used some figurative language. Soon that small spark grew into a blazing fire. So I used the idea of a blazing fire. Of course, my spark did not actually become a fire, but I use it to invoke some emotion in the audience, to show them that I'm becoming full of energy and passion to better my public speaking skills. Include specific examples of how I've changed. I joined the speech team. I joined Toastmasters. I founded a nonprofit organization. These are all tangible outcomes that I can include in my speech. And then I try to relate to the audience. I speak to the audience. I say, maybe you have felt stuck too. And then I give them some dialogue. I say, maybe you've told yourself, this is just who I am. So I make the audience think a little bit. Do they also say these things to themselves? Do they relate to my experience? And then I try to make them take action. So now that I've given them these examples and related to them, I want them to think. You are only one choice away from a different life. I want to motivate them, inspire them. And that is the perfect opportunity to include my tagline, choose your side, change your story. All right, I hope this slide was helpful. And moving on is a call to action. So if you've never heard of this phrase before, from now on, you will, because in every speech, it is so important to have a call to action, no matter if it is a table topics or impromptu speech, or if it is a contest speech, or even a speech in front of the classroom. What is your core message you want the audience to take away? This can be a full circle moment. What does that mean? So for example, at the start of my speech, I used the prop of a coin, heads or tails. And at the end, you saw me use the same prop and the same movement. I flipped the coin up and put it back down. So I gave the audience a call to action. What step should they take after hearing my speech? I want the audience to feel motivated, inspired. After they've heard my speech, I want them to take that specific action, to take it today. So I ask them, will you stay in your comfort zone or step into the unknown? So I ask them these questions so they can take action. All right. So that was a big overview of my script. I kind of revealed a little bit of my secrets of how I developed a powerful speech, a winning speech. And now I want to transition to you. What is community impact? Because public speaking and speech writing is not only used in speech contests, but in the classroom with friends, family, teachers, and also on a wider scale. In the future, you may join your own organization, start your own team, raise awareness about an issue, advocate for political change. All of these are so key in developing your public speaking capabilities. So what is community impact? You want to identify a real problem. Use your voice to raise awareness. Take action, even if it's small. For example, you don't need 1,000 people. You need one starting point. With your friends in the classroom, maybe your teacher asks everyone a question. You raise your hand. You take action. You answer the question. Maybe you have a question for your teacher. You take initiative to walk to your teacher and say, Miss So-and-so, I have a question. Can you please answer? Something like that. Or can you please give me a few minutes? I want to ask you some questions, or I would love for you to give some feedback on my speech or my new idea. Taking that initiation, that first step, is such a powerful tool in community impact. So I want you all to think about starting small and thinking long. I want you all to start small in your speech. Begin with a small action. I want you to think about how can you start from the classroom environment, from with friends and family. And then in the future, when you become older, or even as youth, you don't have to wait until you are so and so years old to begin. You can begin from a young age and create a large impact, because my success definitely did not happen overnight. It happened through years and years of trial and error. All right. And continuing on, this is the impact of real change. All right, now I want to inspire you all and leave you with a phenomenal message that your voice is such a powerful tool for change. Your voice can challenge harmful norms, encourage someone struggling, advocate for fairness, educate others. Use your voice responsibly. And communication isn't just a vital tool for your education and future career path, but it is a daily habit. You don't have to have a crowd, a large audience to be a public speaker. You can do it in the comfort of your home, amidst your friends, in the classroom. All speaking is public speaking, whether it's to one person or 1,000. This is a great quote said by Roger Love, and I hope you apply this quote to your daily life. Think about it. It's a daily habit. For example, if after 3 weeks, I haven't gotten the chance to expose myself to public speaking in the classroom or in contests, I will start to lose a little bit of confidence. And that's normal because you need public speaking exposure. It's like a habit. Every day you brush your teeth. Every day you eat. Yes, that is also a necessity, but it is also a habit. At specific times you sleep. At specific times you eat. Public speaking is also such an important habit. You want to make it so normal that eventually you develop so much more confidence. You feel less doubt, and you become so much of an overall well-rounded public speaker. So this is the community project I have for you. I want you to build your own project on the basis of public speaking. Think about first, what issue do I care about? Second, who does it affect? Third, what is one action I can take? Starting today, maybe tomorrow, next week, but whatever the action, don't wait. Take action. Fourth, who can help me? Your friends, mentors, teachers? 5, when will I start? Write this all down on a piece of paper and remember where you put it. Maybe you tape it up on the wall in your bedroom, beside your bed, beside your pillow. Maybe every night before sleep, when you see that piece of paper, you can jot down some more notes or reflect. Have I achieved my goals? Have I taken these steps? I hope this serves as a reminder. So this is where ideas become action. It doesn't have to be a big dream. It can start from small, tangible goals. And why would you not chase after failures if you knew you would achieve success after, let's say, 10 failures? If you knew that you only had to fail 10 times to achieve success? Personally, I would run after my goals. I would keep on failing because I know that I would learn from those experiences. And some of my most powerful speech contests and public speaking adventures have been achieved because I applied the experiences I learned from my mistakes and failures. So I hope you apply that to your own life as well. So let's take a reflection on what we've learned today, because healing begins when you decide to speak. All right. First is identity shift. You are the thoughts you repeat to yourself. Growth starts internally, not externally. And before you impact your community, think about how you see yourself and who you want to be. What kind of speaker do you wish to be? Next is voice and skill. Think about one technique you will use in your next speech, one message you want to share publicly, one issue you feel responsible or passionate for. And finally is action commitment. What is one action you will take this week? One person you will talk to? One habit you will start today? All right. Thank you so much. I know this workshop was pretty much like 2 hours or longer. It was a very, very phenomenal workshop to have you all here and to be speaking to youth across the globe. So thank you so much for sticking with me throughout this whole webinar. And again, this was a collaboration hosted between Courage Canvas and TeenSpeak Academy. If you are interested in contacting Mr. Bryce from TeenSpeak, please contact him through the WhatsApp group. As for myself, if you would like to ask me any follow-up questions, you can email us at couragecanvas1@gmail.com. And to visit any of our future programs, to learn about any of the work we are currently involved in, you can also visit our website at www.couragecanvas.org. And with that being said, I would love to open it up to any questions. So if the audience today has any questions, I would be happy to answer. But you all are, again, free to leave any questions after the webinar as well.
I'll be in the next webinar.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. Definitely a pleasure to speak to you all. And yeah, I'm definitely excited for any of our future webinars. Hope you all still join us. And I'd be happy to, if you guys bring questions after this webinar, maybe I can answer them at the start or the end of the next webinar as well.